Are you a business owner struggling with wearing every hat from custodian to comptroller? Do you know all the local, state, and federal tax reports you have to file and when? Is your business positioned to leverage credit? You're best at what you do when you're doing what you were designed to do. At Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services, we're designed to support your business from conception to succession. Let us optimize your business for the best tax advantages, payroll, accounting, and even virtual CFO services. Our Business Operations Success Suite is tailored to your business to meet you where you are and help you grow by freeing you of the tedious back office requirements. See how we can customize a plan for you at www.elite8financial.com or call us at 469-412-0056. Get balls. Get behind the shield.
This is Dr. Tamia Guest with Rejuvenating Chiropractic.
This is Nara Reed with Modified Nutrition Health Coach.
This is Karen Marcel with June Street Barbershop.
This is Dr. Yolanda Jerry with YJ Empowerment Solutions.
This is Tiffany Marcel with Marcel Luxury Realty, and you're listening to Boss Talk Radio on the Survival.
1, 2, get down.
Welcome to Boss Talk Radio, brought to you by Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services, with your host, George Dandridge. The Business Operations Success Suite is the premier business talk radio show, bringing you entrepreneurs and top business leaders across every industry, sharing best practices, success tips, and the real stories behind entrepreneurship. Here's your host, the Texas tax expert, George Dandridge.
All right. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you guys for tuning in. So, you see, I'm trying something new here. Let's see. Go over to these comments here. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you're tuning in on YouTube or Facebook. So I'm doing something new with the Boss Talk Radio show. We will be back on Survival Radio Network. My man Clark has been ill, so we're going to keep him in our prayers and hope that he's okay and hope to be returning there next week too. But guess what? The thing about, growth is it usually happens when there's a necessity. And, this thing just kind of worked out just before last week's show. I was kind of tinkering around with this software that somebody recommended to me. And lo and behold, all the stuff I had been trying to figure out last year, we're now able to do as far as video. And even more exciting, we're going to be growing the talkbossradio.com website, and we're going to have you guys able to advertise both on the videos on the show here as well as on the website. You'll be able to put commercials up like the one you saw at the top of the hour if you were tuned in. Don't worry if you weren't. You'll get to see another one a little bit later on in the show. So it is the tax season. A lot of you are running out, getting these advances and whatnot. And hey, I'm not one to judge or tell you what to do with your money when you should get it. But I will say this. If you are one of those people who have gotten an $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 refund for more than 2 years in a row, and you also find yourself at the top of the year getting those advances every year, there's two things I want you to consider. There's probably a large part of that money that you could have used throughout the course of the year, and you need to make some adjustments so you can have that money in your pocket. Also, if you haven't already, take a look at the new W-4 form. There are some changes on there. And from what I'm told, because I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, But from what I'm told, this thing done right pretty much kind of gets it spot on as far as your taxes go. The other side of that is, in addition to being able to use that money throughout the year, chances are when you get that windfall, you may not be really using it wisely because you've had some duress for a while, and you may find yourself making some frivolous purchase that you think is an investment, like new furniture or something like that. And I encourage you guys, if you're not already, if you caught our show on New Year's, we had Kamari Ellis on, and he was talking about fractional investing. And I definitely encourage you guys to look at that if you're not in a position to put a whole truckload of money into the market. This is a method that allows you to get started and get some money saved and have your money grow as well. So the other thing is, if you or somebody you know is getting some sort of a tax notice, any type of letter from the IRS, folks, please do not sit those letters to the side and think that somehow they're going to magically go away. Here's the thing: as a taxpayer, you have rights, okay? And the thing is, though, is that there's a process. And more often than not, there is a date in which you have to respond or you forfeit certain rights. For whatever reason, that can tend to be intimidating and people tend to let it go. I encourage you to reach out to us. You can schedule an appointment at elite8financial.com/appointments, or you can call us at 469-412-0056. But know that those types of things won't just go away. You have to actively take care of it. So, as you guys know, this is the third Wednesday of the month, and on third Wednesdays, what we like to do is address relationship matters as it relates to the health of relationships when it comes to business owners and entrepreneurs. You know, that's a unique place. It's not, you know, a traditional existence where it's the same as the 9 to 5ers, if you would. Some of the principles definitely are the same. I personally believe it requires more. Today, our guest is William Hemphill, and of course, he is the host of the podcast Faith and Family, also author of books, and just so happened to be the only person on the planet that I can actually call a big cousin. So I try not to stand next to him in photographs because he's the only person in the family actually taller than me and older than me. Ain't that something? But anyway, I love him to death. So we're gonna get into that here in just a moment. And you guys bear with me. I appreciate you joining us. Y'all bear with me. I'm going to play with my toys on here and see what I can get going on this screen here. Oh, yeah. I like this. I like this. All righty. Then let's see. William, can you hear me?
I hear you good, man.
Good morning. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I am fantastic. Give me just a second here. This is probably a note that I need to see before I do something wrong. Nope, that is not. Oh, okay. That is your aunt. And had they listened, they would have known to catch us here. But apparently, they tried to call in. Which obviously is not gonna happen this morning. So let's see if I can do this real quick. I'm gonna hit this message and see if she can figure this out.
You
But
have
we're not going to spend.
that too, huh?
No, not really. You know, your cousins always make fun of me with the technology, but I'm kind of enjoying this toy here.
Mhm.
And so next week we're hoping to attach the online part back to it and really grow this thing. So for me, this is the year of stretch, and so we started the show about mid-year last year, and wanted to, that was a stretch in and of itself. And so now we wanted to grow the show and stretch in other ways. But before we get into the relationships part, let's tell the audience a little bit about yourself, your podcast. You're about to, did you already launch yours?
We have just started launching is the Faith and Family Matters podcast. The site is actually faithandfamilymatters.podbean.com. We're working to get it done on iTunes. It's usually a matter of approval, which takes what I've been told about a couple weeks. So we've got about 5 or 6 broadcasts up. And so we will put one up at least every week. We'll either be talking about matters of faith or matters of relationships or both, depending on what happens.
I just learned Monday or yesterday, about this whole iTunes thing, and I know everybody's going to kind of laugh at me like, George, where you been? First of all, I'm not an iPhone user, so didn't know that you could do that or whatever. So that's the next process I have to look into. I don't really know how it works, but one of my colleagues had gotten hers approved for iTunes. I was like, really? That's a thing? Okay, let me look into that.
Yeah.
But also, you have a book out for sale right now.
Yes, I do. I'm going to show it real quick on camera if it can be seen there. There we go. Praying with your spouse, a secret to building intimacy in your marriage. It is actually located on Amazon. You can either get it paperback or Kindle on Amazon. Now, I will say if you want the Kindle version, look for the title and type Kindle in, because they have not linked the two yet. That's called technology. We're figuring this thing out. So
wait, say that again.
They have not linked my hard copy with my Kindle yet.
Okay.
And primarily that really happened more so because I just set up a publish on demand because there are people who actually wanted hard copies, and I only had hard copies with me. But so that way people can go and they can go on Kindle and they can get a hard copy and they'll be sent to them by Amazon and everything else.
Okay, now accountant mind. So are they able to buy the hard copy directly from your site and not have to split funding with Amazon?
I am working on that piece. When you talk about the technology part, that I am actually working on that piece. So right now, it's kind of funny. We're sitting here talking about business. One of the things about business, you learn as you go. So right now, it's like you put it out there, you go, and you improve as you go.
That was a very big and important statement. I don't think people get, how to drive that particular message home. A lot of people actually never get started because they're waiting for that perfect timing. They're waiting for the moon, the sun, and the stars to all align, the funding to be right and the location to be perfect. And, and it's one of those things like you could do a whole lot of planning, but even those with the finest MBAs will tell you that this is being in business. Number one, the first prerequisite is you have to be crazy.
Yeah.
And then you have to be willing to fail your way to success, and so a lot of things you figure out as you go, like us being on camera today. I just figured this one out. So, but yeah, then the other thing is we have to learn how to share resources in order to build up our community. I find that we just don't, those of us that are in business and making efforts, whether it's in similar industries or completely different industries, whatever it is, there's more than enough. You've never hear, Burger King say, well, I'm not going to open here because McDonald's is across the street, so we definitely have to be able to share resources and those know-hows of how to do stuff, because I may not know something that you also don't know, but I may know somebody that know, and I just haven't bothered to learn because I didn't need it, But I'm also hoping to get a book out later this year. And I look forward to people being able to get your book directly from you and cut out the middleman over there.
Yeah, well, we're starting with the middleman right now. We'll get it to me. So, but the point is, in doing that, is we have to get it to somebody actually. And if you want to give me, look, and you'll laugh at this, but it's true. If you want to give me more money, get the Kindle.
So tell me that. Okay, so a lot of people don't know this. A lot of people consider me smart, but here's the reality. I'm struggling not to call you Billy, but
okay, everybody paying attention. We're cousins. We're related. So we're talking business, but we might just have a little extra fun today. I hope that's all right with you.
So Billy is actually a real life genius. He graduated from high school before most people had pubic hair, and finished college in engineering. And this is how you know he was uniquely designed to do what he does, because despite being an extremely gifted mathematician, he decided to serve others. So tell people a little bit about your journey.
All right. Well, since you opened with that, we'll start a little bit with that. I did do well in high school. Went to Georgia Tech, majored in electrical engineering. Actually finished there, worked in telecom for 11 years as a technical support, network support, project manager person. Well, in the midst of that, one of the things I always felt in the midst of it was that calling to minister and to serve others. And so even while I was working in corporate America, I went to seminary. So I went to seminary. Then I like to say corporate America gave me the chance finally to work full time. I mean, to go to school full time. That's called a job layoff. So we went, finished that, and while at seminary, I took some pastoral care and counseling courses. So from there, I worked as a pastor, but then I also went back and got my mental health counseling degree with the purpose and intent of working with families, with couples. And so what I do primarily now is I'm a pastoral counselor and a licensed professional counselor in the state of Georgia. And so I have couples come to my office, sometimes adoptive families, and then individuals who want counseling, but also want it with a faith basis. So that's primarily who I work with.
Awesome. Personally, I don't, and it's not to criticize any other industry, but in my personal opinion, counseling can't exist without a faith basis. But that's just me. Yeah. So we're going to get right into it. And, well, actually, what I'm going to do, and you guys bear with me, I am going to attempt to run a commercial to see if I can have you guys pay some bills here in the near future. Bear with me here. Let's see.
tax filings, and more, Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services can be your growth partner at every level of your business. Schedule your needs assessment today at www.elite8financial.com/boss or by phone at 469-412-0056.
Clearly, I need to get smoother with that, but hopefully one day soon I'll have an in-studio producer with me working these keys or whatever, and I can just be cute on camera.
Yeah.
But let's get right into this thing called business. So one of the things I feel is really, really key in business is that the relationship, like whenever you go out into the world, you know, you're just gonna have to deal with a lot as a business owner, you know. The highs, the lows, you know, all the psychological effects that goes along with entrepreneurship or whatever. It is like absolutely imperative that the home is a tranquil and balanced place. But sometimes, as the business owner, you can be the person contributing to it not being tranquil and balanced. So, if you would, being the relationship expert, what do you think are some of the key factors that go into balance and success for people that have that kind of a hyper detailed existence of being a business owner?
Okay, good question. And I might talk a little. Well, I'll just start talking with this. I like to say there's this term I've been using a lot lately called the business of marriage. When I talk about the business of marriage, I'll even break it down to biblical days and some other cultures. A lot of people got married as part of a business arrangement. So in other words, it wasn't the case where you see someone, they look good, they see someone, you look good, you start romantic dating and different things like that. That's our culture. Back in those days, fathers often talked with fathers, and they made arrangements that would benefit both families. And so it was a business transaction. Bringing that today, I know there's romance and there's love and there's a lot of different things, but marriage is also in many ways a business transaction. Think about it for a moment. You're integrating finances together. You're integrating families together. You're integrating all ways of life together. You're integrating all of these different things. And that, I like to say, is part of what we call the business of marriage. Where I think people get themselves in trouble, or where couples can get themselves in trouble, is we can easily concentrate so much on the business of marriage that we forget why we got together.
Ooh.
So even in business or different things like that, one of the things that made you marry your spouse is you spent time together. You went through that dating process. You enjoyed each other. You went to concerts. You went to dinner. You went on vacation. You did all of these different things where you began to build these bonds together. Then what happens is you get married. Kids start coming. Baby don't care what time you trying to sleep. Baby just want to holler, feed me, clothe me, clean my diaper, do whatever else baby just like. And I don't care whether it's mama or daddy or maybe I like one more than the other. Take care of me.
Mm-hmm.
Start doing things like, okay, whose house are we going to go over this time? Wait a moment. I might like my in-laws. I might not like my in-laws. How do you navigate those things? Then you have the money. Maybe one's a business owner. Maybe one has a stable job. How do we figure out how to integrate that money together, especially when I want to spend money on what I want to, and you want to spend money on what you want to, and they don't go together?
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So it's those type things we have to navigate. Now,
So
go ahead.
Let me ask this question, and I'm trying to kind of hone it in there, but why aren't those things seriously considered prior to entering that contract? And okay, so I'm gonna take some emotion out of it and talk about it the way you were describing it as a business. The other day, I was doing a consult for a prospect considering forming a partnership. They were excited about their new business venture, and they were more or less concerned with just making sure they had the legal structure in place to operate, but they never considered the partner agreement or operating agreement or whatever, and they had such a simplified mindset to it, which was, well, we're just going to split everything 50-50. Like, we're in this together. And I said, well, most partnerships start off that way. And, the thing is that you need something in place for when the problems start. And the problems, for some reason, always seem to start right around the time the money starts to come in. And so I pitched them a few scenarios of what would you do when, if, so forth and so on. And they're like, wow, well, what's the chance of that happening? Well, wow. And it's like, no, this is a real thing. And then, I told them a horror story of another client I had some time ago that went into a partnership with all the best intentions, but did it all wrong. And when these problems started to come about, people who had been lifelong friends from the sandbox were now bitter enemies, spending tens of thousands to battle in court to what ultimately came out to nothing, because all of the funding got ate up in, court costs. So saying all of that to say, there's a part where, and some people disagree with me with this, and they say biblically it's not written that way, but I think there's a part where you have to intend to grow together. And I think often either people grow apart, or one doesn't, or one of them don't grow while the other one is. So bringing that back to the business part of it, if two people have gotten together and there was never that discussion, probably because the thought didn't exist at the time, that, hey, I'm going to open a business, whatever the case may be. But then that time comes and that person, finds and feels that passion and wants to move forward. And the other person either isn't on the same page, or they want to encourage, but they don't want to walk through the discomfort of sacrifice to get to what could be success. How do you mitigate that?
Okay. There's a lot in there. That's cool. I want to go back to the first question first. You're talking about how come we don't think about these things. We're not taught these things. First of all, think about all our messages on TV and different things like that. Boy sees girl, girl sees boy, they fall in love, they have all these wonderful feelings, they live happily ever after. You can think of a million stories where they start talking about stuff like that.
Mhm.
I like to say, okay, you get there, Prince, Princess, you have the wedding, you get out, you leave in the carriage. The film credits end, you see them running off in the carriage. What they don't show you is after the film credits end, the wheel breaks down.
Wow.
Yeah. The carriage gets stuck in the road, and all of a sudden we got to figure out how we gonna put this thing together. So, and then the feelings that come with that.
Mhm.
And so we're taught this thing. I think we're taught more almost how to have a wedding rather than to be married.
I say that all the time.
We're taught to have a wedding rather than be married. So we spend all this money on the wedding. But then I'll just use my business as an example. Somebody calls and they're asking about premarital counseling, and I give them my fee. And I'm like, I don't want to pay that. I'm like, but you're ready to pay thousands of dollars on a wedding that if you don't get some type of guidance beforehand, you're going to spend $1,000 on divorce also. So we're not taught things like, okay, how much money do you make? How much money I make? How are we going to put our finances together? Are we going to have joint accounts? Are we going to have separate accounts? Are we going to have accounts for both of these things? Or am I going to have a business? How much money are we going to invest in the business? In doing that, how are we going to scale these things down? It's very real discussions that we don't know how to handle.
Mm-hmm.
So the second thing, and I'm just thinking about this as we speak, one of the things that also happens is there's a lot of emotion that surrounds money. So for some,
that part,
yeah,
that part. Okay, so obviously a lot of that is tied to how you, I guess, how you grew up or how you're raised, your relationship with money.
Mm-hmm.
But why is it such a sensitive topic to discuss beforehand, but so readily to be an argument? Like, people will like seriously argue behind money, but won't have a civil discussion about money.
But again, you said it, the emotion, how people are raised. And then there's this myth, I think, that's been in our culture that that's one of the things you shouldn't talk about. Now, especially if you're a nice, a good church person, they really don't want to talk about it there. But the thing is, we need it every day.
Right.
We need it every day. You know, that money, and see, here's the thing, money is just a medium of exchange. It's how we exchange things in our society. You know, you give me a certain amount of money, I'll give you some clothes. You give me a certain amount of money, we'll exchange that for food or for cars or whatever else. It's a medium of exchange. And everything in our culture, you have to interact with it. So why it's important for people to communicate about that is you go into a marriage thinking everything's all right and he ain't talked about it, and then all of a sudden you find out he's in $80,000 in debt. Well, guess what that means? We all of a sudden $80,000 in debt.
Yes.
And there's some stuff that goes into that. One of the things I work with people is like, just be real and be honest. Give your partner a chance to make that honest choice. Okay, I'm $80,000 in debt, as an example. School loans, you have all that. You give your partner a chance to make a choice. Do I want to be with you or do I not want to be with you? If they choose to be with you, then you know that's on the table. So I've chosen to take on this $80,000 in debt as part of being with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's an example, and we'll figure it out. A lot of stuff that happens is because we ain't truthful to each other. So we're trying to hide stuff, you know.
Is it really trying to hide, or is it just not knowing how to have the conversation?
It could be both. Now, because I
think to some degree it may be maybe a degree of selfishness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whereas okay, they want to be with this person,
mm-hmm.
so they know when this is shared, that person may not want to stick around.
Yeah.
So maybe I just won't. Maybe I just won't tell them this part. I'll just take care of it, and it'll be done before they can never find out about it.
Well, see, if you say that though, I still call that deception, because I'm like, I'm trying to hide this. I'm gonna take care of this, so we don't know about this. And then we get married and something happens and I hadn't taken care of it. All of a sudden, two people are trying to figure that thing out when it shows up. Here's the other thing, especially as you age. It's one thing when you're dating in your teens and your 20s, but when you're in your 30s, your 40s, and your 50s, everybody got something they dealing with. Everybody. So you're out dating in your 30s and 40s and 50s. Everybody has something that they're dealing with. They got some trauma. They got some financial issues. They got family issues, something. Everybody has something, because we can't go through life without dealing with something, period. And so especially when you start looking at being married in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or something like that, that is an honest discussion you need to have, is that money discussion. I mean, it's important to negotiate that, and negotiate it honestly. Even if you do something like, okay, this is my account, I'm going to pay my bills here. This is my account, I'm going to pay my bills here. You understand that goes there. And so if you plan something together, that means, okay, instead of maybe getting a house this big, maybe we only need to get something this big because of that decision.
How do you think, this is on topic, off topic, because I'm going to get away from business for a second, but it's about the business of marriage.
Yeah.
There's this thing in our society now where people feel compelled to look successful, especially if they have certain degrees, titles, etc. And I mean, to the point where they will do things that don't really make economical sense, but it looks great. And I was having a discussion with your little cousins. We were talking about that perception, because they were telling me about somebody that had some material things or whatever, and I asked them, well, how much do you think that cost? And so we broke down this conversation about monthly costs, for bills. And I was like, I doubt seriously if they, bought this $750,000 house and these, 6-figure cars in cash. I just doubt it seriously.
Yeah.
And so, their existence, their required, existence before they enjoy life at all is probably $8-9 grand a month, and then they still have to be out and about, and they want to be fashionable, and they want to eat at the nicest places, and so forth and so on. Well, here's the thing. What happens if either one of these people in that equation can't bring in the type of income they're used to all of a sudden? I don't understand why people insist on the instant gratification that credit offers them, but that also enslaves them, to a have to situation. I was once asked, because I had as many jobs as a Jamaican, and clearly I didn't need them, because I always kept, my cost of existence fairly low. Everybody knows me. I always spent money on shoes and watches. Those were my thing. But outside of that, fairly frugal, and so somebody asked me one day, well, what's your end game? And I didn't realize at the time, but I was helping take care of other households being able to be a plug when somebody needed it, because I kept my own costs low, you know, and then so I found when I was asked that I actually had a joy in being able to help other people in that way was much more satisfying than me saying, "Look what I can buy."
Yeah.
You know? I don't understand why people do that, but you can't then, like, if something happens, like I remember in 2008, well, it was actually 2009. This is when I first seen this big impact. I saw these middle-aged men in their late 40s, early 50s, that would normally be at the height of their earning in life, but because of the recession had lost their jobs and was in an unfamiliar place because they were taking care of their parents, but had kids in college, but had their own mortgage and stuff that they had, and these guys were losing it because they couldn't find jobs, you know, like what they were used to making is like, interesting. You know,
so
what's your thoughts on how people can just not do that?
Well, the first thing's thinking first, and it's probably important for our little cousins, because mine too. If we could teach, especially them, that even some of the stuff we've gotten, we didn't get overnight. See, one of the things that's taught in society is you got to have the nicest car, or you got to have the nicest house, or you got to have this, or you got to have all these particular things. I remember looking at my parents and stuff. It's like they didn't always have the nicest stuff. It took them a while to build to certain things. And so it took us a while to build to certain things. The second thing I'd say is, especially if you can help it, don't spend all the money. One of the biggest things I talked about earlier, how I had the job layoff. One of the biggest reasons we were able to survive is when I had that engineering job and me and my wife go to get ready to purchase our house, they tell us we could afford this house up here like this. And I said, nah, we gonna go down here. So when the income left, we could still pay for down here. But if we was up here, we would have been in trouble. So we don't have to do what they tell us to do. But it takes a certain mindset and a strength and understanding to do that, because we're constantly bombarded with messages. You got to guy this, you got to get the latest that, you got to get this, whatever else. And sometimes we don't ask why. Do I really need the latest iPhone, or is mine working fine? Do I need a new computer, or is mine being hit? You know, we talked about that scripturally. Godliness with contentment is great gain. Learning to be content in a lot of things. Because that's the thing. Society tries to get us to not be content.
Yeah, and you know, the garden just will not grow overnight. I don't care what magic beanstalk you plant. It's just not coming overnight. You know. So, okay, let's go through this example here. You have a household. You have two people working. Well, I'm not going to go through that example. I'll do it this way.
Okay.
I see a lot of chatter on social media, and I'm sure the comments are about to go off the chain right about now, but I'm going to talk about it. I see a lot of comments on social media, namely from women, and I'm not woman bashing. I'm just saying what I see. And what's being said is there's a lot of complaining about today's man being the provider, not being like their grandfather, and you know, and talking about, you know, well, women aren't submissive because men aren't leading, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I always look at this from a kind of panoramic view, just kind of draw back a little bit and say, well, and I asked this question on somebody's post that had 100 and some comments, and boy, I had 800 comments behind mine, but it was a simple question. It was simply this: if you want your significant other to be the provider, are you willing to exist on what he can provide? Oh my God. You should have seen the reaction. It was a joy to watch. But, it went haywire. And here's the thing is like, okay, so, some ladies tried to put a spin on it and say, well, we're here to help. We're supposed to help them, this, that, and the other. Okay, well, clearly, if you're helping him, but he can do this, whatever you can help do can, somebody say storehouse, but I ain't gonna preach today. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to now take it up to here, and exist at that level, because if any one of y'all can't do all of a sudden, you got problems. So can you please speak to that aspect, that mindset there?
Okay, yeah. So talking about marriage and money, the real truth is you only got so much money, so you can only live such and such a way. So like you did say, if you want the man to be the provider, then you structure your house where he can be the provider. So if he makes, I don't know, I'm just saying, let's say $50,000, you structure your house so you can live off that 50, and whatever you bring is extra.
And I remember that was considered a decent income.
Yeah,
I'm not even say decent. I would remember when that was considered a good income, but now people are, now it's called household income, and so they want to know what everybody in the house make. So we've kind of self-created these, 6-figure lifestyles.
Yeah.
Go ahead though. Finish your thought.
No, you're bringing up some good stuff there. But like we're talking about that because I know especially sometimes in churches or different places like that, we teach that the man is supposed to be the head of the household and he's supposed to provide. But if he's supposed to be the sole provider, you have to gear your lifestyle so you can do that. I've known couples who have done that. They had to gear their lifestyle so that the man could do that. But, well, I mean, it's true. It just is true.
Hey, those were smart couples.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just true because you only got so much money. Now, if you're saying, I want to live a bigger lifestyle, then you're going to, young lady, for example, because this is the thing we have to contribute to that pot. But then also understand in contributing to that pot, you're going to have to communicate and talk about this thing.
Go on, say it. You don't have to put no sugar on it. Go on, say it. Say it. Because when you contribute, now see, here's where the thing goes left. And this is not picking on today's woman or women in general, but because this was actually by design. This is not just a theory of my own, but I personally believe that the design to infiltrate and weaken the Black family was done by being able to take the woman out of the house, because everything tried prior to that did not work because she was the center of strength, took her out of the house, and then had her turn around and say, well, I make my own money. What do I need you for? And so then you had this thing where women went from contributing to wanting to direct their own funds. You're not a mutual fund manager. This is not your job. And so then you have this thing where now you have a separation of thoughts on how money should be directed, because this one earned this and wants to do that, and this one earned this and wants to do that, and and then the head gets lost, if you
Yeah.
would.
Well,
Don't say it.
Yeah. Well, here's the interesting thing about that. To me, some of that goes back to what you look at marriage as.
Okay.
Are you a team together, like Team Dandridge or Team Hemphill or whatever else? Are you a team together?
Mm-hmm.
If you are a team, that means you're doing whatever's successful for the team or family. And I like to say, if you're doing that as a team, then it don't matter who makes the most money, because we're putting the money in the pot together and we're making decisions together on how we're going to do things. Now, the challenge that happens with most people is there are a lot of folk, I got $100. I'm only going to bring $50 in my household. I'm going to keep $50 over here. Well, see, I like to say there's another problem with that. The other problem with that is you don't necessarily trust your spouse, or vice versa.
Well, some people, I've learned that some people are actually taught that they're raised that way, and they'll be told things like never let your right hand know what your left hand doing, and all of these little quirky little things or whatever. So you're saying that they're fundamentally raised wrong, basically.
Well, here's the thing. If you want to know the truth, honestly, all of us, I like to say our parents did the best job they can.
Mm-hmm.
They've all taught us some good things, but all our parents taught us a mess. And don't worry, our children are saying the same thing about us, because it's true. Because we're human beings. But here's the thing about it. As a grown-up, you have a choice whether to stick with that philosophy or change the philosophy. Stick with a change. I'll give you an example, my own personal thing. In our house, they had this saying called 50-50. I bring 50, and I pay 50% of the bills. You pay 50% of the bills. Now, if the bills are this high, but you make this income and you make this income, it ain't necessarily a fair exchange. Because you're saying 50% of the bills, 50% of the bills. And I'm not the only one who's dealt with that. I know other people who've dealt with that. I personally said, I ain't going to run it that way. I said, look, when talking with my wife while we were dating, we actually did some talking about money. We said, okay, we are putting it in the pot and we're going to figure out how this works. See, here's the thing about that. In my marriage, there have been times where I've made the bigger income, and there's been times when she made the bigger income. If we were playing money games, we would be in trouble. But there's a level of trust that we had for each other that said, okay, we are going to do this and we figure this stuff out together. And see, the good thing about putting that in that pot together, in my opinion, it forces you to learn how to communicate. Because a lot of us don't know how to talk to each other. And so we got to learn how to talk, learn how to listen, which this one's more important than that one. Learn how to empathize and understand one another. Because even in marriage, especially in marriage, I like to say this, but then even as a parent, different things like this, there are a lot of problems you won't get resolved. But if you learn to listen and empathize and understand one another, because that caring and that whatever comes forth, that's going to make a big difference in that. There's some things that ain't never going to be resolved, but go ahead.
Speak on that some more. Clear that up for me.
Okay. Like, for instance, I don't know. Let's say a young lady, she starts dating this guy, whatever else. She goes over his apartment, see his apartment's a mess. There's a signal that he might not like to clean up. She goes and cleans the apartment. Because she's in love. Oh, I'll take care. She cleans the apartment. Come back over, clean again. She's in love. They get married, get in the house. She mad because he's messy. You knew he was messy beforehand. He chose to marry. But once you understand that at some point, because he may not change, it's like, you know what? I'm probably just going to have to do the dishes. It sucks, but I just have to do it. For example.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Because
now.
there are things that just ain't ever going to be resolved.
Now, to me, that's not an unresolved problem. That's just who that person was, and at one point you accepted it, and at some point you changed your mind.
But yeah, let's put it this way. Even that, let's talk about that. Where you talk about the young ladies all keep the left hand, not knowing what the right hand is doing. You marry somebody that's not going to put their whole money in the pot. You got a couple choices.
Well, and here's the thing. That's on the other hand, that's something you may not entirely know. Jason made the comment together with TWO together.
Yeah.
So, but if somebody comes to the table holding back, then you don't necessarily know they're holding back. Unlike the unfold clothes or the dishes, that's obvious.
But even let's talk about that, for example. You don't know they're holding back till they get in. Once you're in there, you do still have decisions you make. I can talk to you about this. We can try to work it out. You can keep holding your money and you can decide, you know what? I like you for other reasons. I'm going to stay married to you, but I understand that in this relationship, you're going to hold some stuff back and you just say, all right, deal with it, whatever else. I'll deal with whatever else. Or some people say, I ain't going to do that, and they split apart. So I like to say we always have choices in these matters. So we're constantly learning, we're constantly growing, we're constantly trying to understand.
Right, and like you said, at the end of the day, everybody has, in the words of E40, everybody has choices.
Yes.
Been a pleasure having you on. Before we let you go, tell everybody where to find the podcast again, and also where to pick up the book.
All right, a couple things real quick. You can find the podcast. Well, you can find everything on my site, WilliamHemphill.com, WilliamHemphill.com. There are podcast links there. There's also a link to the book. You can find the book on Amazon, Praying with Your Spouse, A Secret to Building Intimacy in Your Marriage. There's a Kindle and there's a hardback book there. We talk about a lot of stuff briefly. And I made it a simple book. It's like a simple thing that almost shows you how to pray for different things. But we talk about stuff, praying when you don't have the time, praying about health, sexual intimacy, praying with your spouse about money.
That's a big one.
Yes,
that should be chapter 1.
No, it is a big one. And I said, that's good for the show. It is a big one because, okay, we're spiritual people who love God are inviting God into our homes. We invite God into our lives, even in how we deal with money. We don't think about that a lot.
Right.
We invite God into how we deal with money. And sometimes when you do that, you might find out that both your hands get slapped. Okay.
Thanks for joining us today. Again, ladies and gentlemen, the only person on planet Earth I can call my big cousin. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, one more thing. If you need counseling and you're in the Atlanta area, you can also look at my site, WilliamHemphill.com. I do individual counseling and I do marital counseling. So please come check it out.
Do you offer virtual yet?
That will be happening soon. I had to become fully licensed first before I could even start to go that process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
I just became fully licensed in this state. Like, it's not even a month old yet. Fine. So.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'll be looking for you to do that part 2 and come back on the show and talk about it. And we may have you do like a little segment when I have the other couples on the third Wednesdays or whatever, pending your availability and whatnot. Ladies and gentlemen, the only person I can call big cousin, William Hempfield. Been a pleasure having you on.
Thanks, cuz, man.
You guys pick up the book and check out the podcast. And coming up next week, if your business is in need of funding, we're going to have one of our funding experts on to talk to you guys about how to position yourself to get funding, what that process involves and everything. So be sure to check us out next week. And before I go, I am going to attempt to play with this commercial thing again. So y'all bear with me. And here we go. Uh-oh, that was it. Wait a minute. Here we go.
Ready to begin your business?
Hey,
Should you be an LLC or a C corporation? How do you track the cost of goods versus operating supplies? What are your depreciable assets? Are you structured to obtain business credit? Not sure? Get a boss, an individual services will position your business for success and avoid the pitfalls of startups. From registering with your state, operating agreements, bookkeeping, tax filings, and more, Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services can be your growth partner at every level of your business. Schedule your needs assessment today at www.elite8financial.com/boss or by phone at 469-412-0056.